So, when you're not in fear, just stay like that. Because to create fear, you have to use excessive imagination. To not be in fear, you don't have to do anything.
The coronavirus disease, more specifically COVID-19, is widespread, and negative feelings of fear, anxiety, and worry come along with it. We often hear of important measures to take: stay at home, self-isolate, and practice proper hand-washing techniques. But little is reported about ways to cope with our emotions.
Why would somebody want to manage stress? I couldn't get it for some time. Then I realized people have made a conclusion that stress is an extra limb that they have in their body. Stress is an appendage that they cannot get rid of. Stress is not a part of you. You get stressful because you do not know how to handle your mind.
1. Take breaks from the media. With an increasing number of cases and deaths reported in the media, feelings of worry and anxiety can also skyrocket. While it is important to be aware of our circumstances, it's also important to take a step back and do what we can to stay both physically and mentally safe. Urge yourself to disconnect from the media periodically and take time for yourself and your hobbies. You could read a book, draw a picture, learn an instrument, the list goes on.
Like a lot of people, I've been worried about this coronavirus pandemic and trying to figure out what to do, both out in the world and inside my own mind. When we face a threat like an illness potentially coming at us, the brain has evolved to react really strongly to that sense of threat, especially if it's moving toward us quickly, getting more intense along the way, with lots of moving pieces. And we can have a sense of helplessness, in part, like an epidemic, because the pathogens are invisible. So it's understandable if we tend to curl around ourselves and hunker down and feel immobilized. That's why it's so important to look for ways that you can feel that you're active in some effective way, if only inside your own mind, because that will help you feel better, and also it will be the foundation of an effective coping response. Of course, out in the world, we should take sensible precautions, follow the advice of experts who know what they're doing. I'm doing that myself. Meanwhile, inside ourselves, there are two kinds of things we can do that are really helpful. The first is to engage in practices that help us feel calmer, clearer, and stronger. For example, just exhaling naturally slows the heart rate and engages what's called the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system, which can help us feel more rested and centered and grounded in ourselves. So looking for those ways to take 3 breaths in which you're aware of the feeling of breathing while you're doing it, and helping the exhalations be as long as or even longer than the inhalations. That's a really good method.
It is happening because of excessive imagination. Things that have not happened, you're creating. What may happen in your mind happens in 1,000 different formats, and most probably it never happens. The things that you feared, take 100 things that you have feared, probably 99 of them never happened, isn't it? Yes. So your fear is always about that which does not exist. You cannot fight or you cannot overcome that which does not exist.
Another really good method is to tune into your own kind of feeling memory of being strong, of being gritty, determined, feisty, even a little fiery, that, you've got some moxie here. That will help you also feel more resilient. And then a third quick suggestion is to tune into the feeling of being cared about by others. Friends who care about you, maybe the memory of being in your grandmother's kitchen, maybe something deep inside that feels even beyond yourself. That sense of being supported by others and cared about by others is really important, particularly given that as human beings, we must live with others and rely on others. So it's natural to need the sense of others caring about us, or certainly including us, for our own stress management.
No attention is being paid as to how to handle this mind, how to handle this emotion, how to handle this body, how to handle these energies. Nothing has been done about it. You're managing such a sophisticated system accidentally. So you being stressful is a natural outcome of such unconscious living. There is no other way to be. Don't think your job is stressful. Now you're a student. Being a student is stressful. If you don't find employment when you come out of the college, that is stressful. If you get a job, even more stressful. If you don't get married, that is very stressful. If you get married, I don't want to say anything. If you don't have children, that is stressful. If you have children, you pull your hair out with stress. So, it is not your job or your life situations which are stressful. Stress is happening to you because of your inability to manage your own system.
Second major way in which you can really help yourself is to tap into what Professor Shelley Taylor at UCLA has developed as the tend and befriend theory of stress management. In other words, in addition to fighting and fleeing in response to a stressor, we can tend and befriend. In other words, keep in mind the fact that they're scared too. Just last night, I was walking down the street and came upon a father and teenage daughter walking their dog, and I could feel the part of me that wanted to shrink away from them and see them as somehow the enemy. And I could feel something of that in them as well. So I was deliberately a little extra friendlier at night, saying hello to them and a little extra inclined to tune in to their reactions too. And
Fear means you're producing horror movies in your mind. Nobody else is willing to watch. That's bad for the producer. But you're producing them. So, you produce something else. Produce a comedy, a love story, suspense, thriller. Try and see today. Just sit down, produce a love story, a suspense thriller, a comedy. 5 minutes movies you make in your mind. Really. Start using your mind differently. It's just gotten into your pattern. Just gotten into your pattern of just creating horror movies all the time. You have watched enough horror movies, they're boring. Create something else. Even it's not that if you produce these movies, those things will happen in your life. Still they may not happen, at least you enjoy the movie. In reality it may not happen, so what? At least you enjoy what's happening in your mind, if you cannot enjoy what's happening in the world, isn't it? That much privilege every human being deserves, isn't it so? Even if the world is not kind to him, at least his own mind should be kind to him, should produce some nice movies.